Hi.
Short Bus Debate Club. It's a bus rolling.
I can get on board. Hello, I'm Darren Jolly.
It's time to get this short bus started. So let's roll and on with the show. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is Brian Courtney with Short Bus Debate Club. And yes, once again, we're late. And there's a solid possibility that that's going to happen well into January, depending on what happens at the post office.
Indeed.
But we're still here to, entertain you, just not on the right day. So today we are going to be talking about 303 Creative, and I guess Masterpiece Cakes, and just, I guess what it means to be a business owner, what it means to be a consumer or a hopeful consumer, and whether or not we're on the right track. And I don't know that we're going to come up with any answers, but here is kind of the lowdown.
The LD.
There's a stupid lady named Lori something or other.
Smith?
I think it is Smith, but I didn't want to say Smith because there's so many of them. But anyway, Lori Smith runs a company called 303 Creative, and they make websites. Well, she decided that she did not want to make websites for gay people who were getting married because that went against her entire belief structure as a Christian, and she doesn't believe that a marriage is real between a man and a man or a woman and a woman. So essentially what they did is a preemptive strike, and they're in front of the Supreme Court right now. Oral arguments were posted on December 22nd.
That was before that.
No, December 5th.
It better not be 22nd because we're only at the
14 days
right
away.
Back to the future.
Hold on a minute. I got it. Nope, that's the wrong one. Sorry, got too many files opened up. Okay, so here are the oral arguments. And they did a preemptive strike, and the arguments were posted December 5th.
Okay.
And basically, like I said, they were doing a preemptive strike because no gay couple had ever gone to this stupid bitch to say, will you make me a website? But she wanted to make sure that everyone knew that she didn't want to do websites for gay people. And apparently, according to her attorney, she'll still do websites for gay people, so long as those gay people are not being married.
Or it doesn't conflict with any of, whatever their activity, it doesn't conflict with her
religious beliefs. Yeah. So really what they're saying is she's not going to do websites for gay people, but they had to frame it that way. Otherwise, she'd be, a homophobe? Something along those lines.
At least a kook all the way around.
Indeed. So kind of tied to this discussion is the Masterpiece Cakes thing, which happened, 2016?
No, it actually happened in 2012. It just didn't actually go to court until 2017. So.
Okay. So, again, a couple of gay guys go in, ask this dude to make a cake. He says, no, I'm not going to make a cake. I don't do cakes for gay people. And, it goes to the Supreme Court.
And again, he won't make anything specific for the marriage. He was very clear when they came in, and he said, I'll sell you whatever, generally that you want, but because I don't believe in gay marriage in the same context, I cannot do you a specialized because I don't believe that it's real.
I've got a real hard time with that, though, and I don't know that I buy it, because I think, if let's say even one gay person comes in and says, "Hey, we're having a big orgy, so I need to make I need you to make a cake that just has a bunch of dicks on it and guys rolling around. Do you have any of those plastic things that are usually like grooms, but like they're naked and they're rolling around?" I don't think he'd make that cake either.
How many times do you think in the history of humanity a person walked into a place of commerce and said, "Hey, we're going to have this orgy. We need to..."
They opened up an entire fucking X-rated bakery over in Denver off of like 2nd Avenue because I'm guessing it happened often. Over here at Cakes by Karen, you can go in and say, "I want a big titty cake or a cake with bush on it." I mean, it happens. We had a titty cake at Rogelio's bachelor party.
Rogelio's?
Yeah. That's
I got
Spanish
you.
for
Rogelio.
John.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still don't think that people generally lead in with the orgy question a ton in life.
Okay, fine. Maybe it is a bachelor party. Do you think Jack's going to make titty cakes?
I just meant in the vast, I'm just being contentious, that's all. So
I understand that.
And of course, no, he's not going to make titty cakes.
Right. So it's...
He actually made it clear there are all kinds of things that he won't do. He won't make anti-American cakes. He won't make cakes for Halloween for some reason or another. Maybe because he believes that Halloween is like worshiping the devil, shout at the devil, on Halloween or something like that.
Shout. Okay, so clearly he is strictly a Christian cake guy. That doesn't make it any better.
No, yeah. I mean, ultimately, but it's no matter what, like it's interesting.
That just makes him non-homophobic. Or no, not necessarily. I was jumping to a conclusion there. Well, no, I was just saying that if he won't make Halloween cakes and he won't do titty cakes and he won't do all of these different cakes, then he just wants to do cakes that only,
support America, that
uplift the Christian values that our country has been based in.
Well, yeah, what the Christian right ultimately suggests.
Yeah.
Right? So
that's fucking disappointing.
What's disappointing?
That he won't make titty cakes or any cakes for that matter.
Because if you got a good titty cake, I mean, that would be a fun cake to motorboat. It'd be kind of a mess.
That one at the bachelor party was fucking delicious. They make a good cake.
Which was that Cakes by Karen or okay?
Yeah.
So at the beginning of this, like I always when I think about First Amendment questions, right? Like, or at least the way that I thought about it before this, and when you start reading about it, I think about things that you're not allowed to say, or things that you're prohibited, things that just you're censored on. But this is interesting because Colorado had this law, was CADA or something like that.
Yeah.
It was an anti-discrimination. That's a Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act or something like that.
And that's when gay people and apparently LGBTQI plus are now all included under this protection by CADA. Mm-hmm. But it was passed in, was it 96?
I don't know.
It was back when we voted Tabor in, so it's right around that time.
Okay. Carry on. I'll get the exact date, but carry on.
So CADA protects what they say is those who would be disenfranchised or have bigoted racial whatever slurs, against them or turned down for goods or services because of being black or gay or Mexican or whatever. So basically it's there to protect minorities or not white men.
I can't figure out exactly when but in 2008 they expanded to include
that must have been when they included the TBQI
thing.
To
include people for sexual orientation ultimately is what they say.
Regardless of when, it's in place now. And so that puts these people, and I know I'm probably fucking up that whole acronym, but the LGBTQI
LGBTQI. No. Yes.
plus,
Plus or minus.
they're now essentially a protected class here in Colorado, and I know other states have passed similar legislation.
Yeah, they're like 20.
California is one of them. New York is one of them. Texas, probably not one of them. Oklahoma, probably not one of them. Kansas isn't one of them. Missouri's not one of them. Those are just guesses, by the way.
Or at least when I heard it say that there were 20, that was when the case went to the Supreme Court for Jack Phillips's. So it would have been 2017. Who knows now?
Well, either way, 20 is close to half, but there's some sort of legislation to protect gay people. Now, here, and I know Darren's going to want to talk, so maybe I shouldn't jump into this.
Keep rattling on, please.
Here is kind of the issue that I have. Okay, so first off, 303 Creative and Masterpiece Cakes are full of shit. They are not creating speech. To put happy fucking wedding day on top of a cake and throw a couple of plastic dudes up there, that is not developing speech. So it shouldn't be protected under the First Amendment. This goofy bitch Lori Smith and 303 Creative, when somebody goes to her with a website, they give her the verbiage. Here's the story of how we met. Here's where we're getting married. Whatever the case is, they give her that information. So it's not like she's sitting there going, oh, here would be the best thing to say right here. He gave me a purple rose that he spent $27 on because purple roses are hard to come by. And we met and fell in love, and now we're getting married. She's not coming up with any of that speech. That's them giving her something. So essentially, all she is a typist
plug and play,
who can move pictures around to different parts of the website, who knows how to create a link. That's it. She's not doing anything artistic. So the First Amendment and parts of the 14th should not actually protect her at all. So that's the first problem I have, is that this preemptive strike has an agenda behind it besides freedom of speech and freedom of religion and whatever the attorneys are saying is there.
Which is interesting and odd because the preemptive part, right? Because clearly the Masterpiece Cake thing that happened in 2012, the incident that happened in 2012, between the two gentlemen and Mr. Phillips, that was an event, right? But when you have this moment where this other person comes in who is they're friends, they know each other. I mean, all cards on the table. The post office that I work at, Jack is a customer. He is literally, I could walk to his cake shop, and within 15 minutes from where I work at. So I know him. I have a professional relationship with him. He's a nice guy. He's a decent person. But either way, when we were talking the other day, and Brian had brought up the idea of maybe doing the 303 Creative thing, I mentioned her to him, and he said that she was a friend of his. So there's some other stuff that we'll get into in relation to this as it relates to the law firm that is defending both of them. But when you go from a moment where there's an active incident that occurs that leads to a court case to one where you literally have someone saying, we're going to go in and just sort of fight about this right now because we want to make sure to set the record straight for everybody, and create these sort of like broad definitions of what it is that constitutes an artist, and this sort of like the point that I was making about speech when it comes to the First Amendment in the first place. Like I said, when I thought about it historically, I'd always think about things that you're being silenced, censored from being able to say. In this case, it's the exact opposite. It's called compelled speech, right? So this preemptive space to where they're suggesting that these individuals are forcing them to say something that contradicts their beliefs, that and that it injures them somehow or another. So
Yeah, I personally don't get it. But Darren and I were talking offline, and we'll get into that in a minute. I wanted to tell you the second thing that really bothers me about this. And I understand that there are people that need to be protected. With that being said, though, I'm not sure if I totally agree, because as a business owner, if I want to turn someone away, I should be able to do that. From a capitalist perspective, it doesn't make any fucking sense. These guys should be wanting to do websites and cakes for any fucking person that comes in, whether they're gay, black, Mexican, Chinese, Vietnamese, white. It doesn't fucking matter. Anybody that walks in the door, they should say, yeah, we'll take your fucking business. So from a capitalist perspective, it doesn't make sense. But from an owner's perspective, if somebody tries to come into your house, you can turn them away. Why wouldn't the same sort of rule be applied with a business? Because that is my second home, essentially. I mean, I go there and I'm probably there more than I'm actually at home.
But you know that there are clear problems with what you're saying immediately.
Absolutely. I understand that. And I know, like I said at the beginning of my little fucking rant, I know that certain people need to be protected. I know that one of the main reasons you can't turn people away is Denny's had a lot to do with that. Because if you were black and you went into Denny's, you were either treated like shit while you were there or told that you're not getting any service.
And not unlike this instance, several times when race was the factor that people turned people away from service, there was a ton of religious objections that they were using as a way of trying to defend their positions, which means that we're sort of like coming back to a very similar moment. But of course, like one of the initial questions that you have to ask yourself is there a difference between like a protected class like race and then a protected class like sexual orientation? Like, are these the same thing? Are they different things? I mean, I'm not trying to, but so carry on with your.
No. I was just sitting here thinking about that because, as far as I'm concerned, a protected class is a protected class, right? So, I remember a long time ago, I was turned down for a job because I smoked, and I was fucking pissed. And I called
You're discriminating against me because I'm a smoker.
I called an attorney and I said, I want to sue these motherfuckers. And he said, there's nothing we can do. You're not a protected class. And I said, I don't have to be a protected class, but I have the right to smoke. And he said, yeah, you do. And they have the right to not hire you because you smoke. So I understand, and not because of the smoking thing, but I understand the difference between protected classes and people who aren't in that class. Mm-hmm. So neither Darren or I are in that class. Pretty much everyone else is. They're protected in one way or another. And a lot of that has to do with how we've treated them in the past.
Yeah.
I fully understand that.
Yeah, we're not trying to trivialize the trials and tribulations that these different sections of the general population have had to go through and continue to go through under several circumstances. But this is a really, really weird gray space that we're talking about here. If you really want to just think that it's as simple, you know, I mean, like at first blush, I mean, this really just looks like one of those instances that's like totally rooted in the current like culture war positions between Republicans and Democrats in a formal sense, like the people that are woke are enlightened, and the people that are not woke are not enlightened, and the people that have faith, have, they're moved by their faith, they're guided by their faith, and it's the people that are woke that don't really understand. So, I mean, it's this.
I'm never gonna tell people that I truly understand because I don't. But so just now for some reason the movie A Time to Kill popped in my head again. And at the end, Matthew McConaughey has given this. He's given his summation, his closing, and he's talking and he's saying, I want you guys to close your eyes, picture this, a little girl is raped and they fuck up her
Yeah.
9-year-old womb, and she's got gashes in her head from where they were throwing beer cans at her, and then they hang her and the branch breaks and she falls into the riverbed. Now I want you to picture this. Now picture that she was white.
Right. Yeah.
And that fucks me up when I watch that show. And I think, they were trying to prove a point. And obviously it was just a movie, but that's kind of the way people think, is in terms of black and white. And there is no true answer. Sometimes a black person may need to be refused service, or sometimes a gay person may need to be refused service. Not because they're black and not because they're gay, but because they're doing something that doesn't fit within certain parameters. You and I were talking about it, and I said if a bunch of white kids are in there raising hell and smoking cigarettes and
at this restaurant that you
yeah, in the theoretical restaurant, white kids are fucking raising hell and they're bothering customers and whatever. No problem. Kick them the fuck out. Nobody says anything. Switch it over, Mexican kids, black kids, whatever. You kick them out. Now all of a sudden you're a fucking racist. And they were doing the same shit that the white kids were doing. I've got kind of a problem with that. I think, for a long time, people have been saying we need to expand our paradigm. We need to shift our point of view. And I think that that's still the case, because anytime you say no to somebody doesn't mean that it's no because you were in this minority class.
There was an incident at my work recently where we've had so there when you come in, you start working as a clerk at the post office. The entry level position is called, it's a PSE, a postal support employee, right? I mean, you pretty much do whatever they ask you to do whenever they ask you to do it. I mean, as long as you're your Fair Labor Standard Act kind of stuff. You can't have people working split shifts over 15 hours and stuff like that. But ultimately, they can change your day off. They can work you several days in a row. Of course, they get to pay you overtime if you do it over. You just like anything, again, like Fair Labor Standards Act, right? But we have had a variety of, ethnicity, sexual orientation, uh, black, white, brown, Asian, gay, straight, trans. We just recently had this super cool Afghani guy that was working at our station for a while, and he had to leave way too soon. He's a fucking smart guy. He's actually a doctor. Whatever. I'm not gonna talk about that. But we have a PSE that there recently that would kind of throw fits and put shit all over the place to make it difficult for other people to work and sort of put herself in the middle. She'd like sing real loud and like she'd just do all these things to kind of like make the place not happy, you know. And like I said, we've like generally you have better ones and worse ones, but generally speaking, everything we can find ways to work together and things generally go okay. But this time around, things have been very, very difficult. The individual that's a PSE she is not white. I'm not going to go into specifics of anything except to say that there was an altercation that occurred between she and one of the career clerks at the station. It was not the first time that it had happened. The guy who is the former steward for the letter carriers, the manager's boss, what they call the MCSO, she came in, and this individual who had nothing to do with anything, wasn't there when the incident happened, said the career one is racist. And then that lady went and, without talking to anyone about anything, sent that individual home. Right? When it all played out, it was demonstrated that the situation had nothing to do with race. You know, everybody that was working with that individual was having difficulties with her. But there is a certain tendency in the world right now, and again, it's obnoxious. We have to keep repeating these things. Of course, racism exists. Of course, sexism, homophobia. Just many different versions of looking at protected classes, or unique individuals, their identities, whatever they are, and not being respectful. The Afghani guy, I about knocked one of my fucking, coworkers out because they said something to him about, they said the sand thing, and this guy's, like I said, he's an MD, he's a very smart, very thoughtful, very conscientious and great person to work with. Like he was a team player, but instantly when they said the racism thing, they automatically, and we have to be able to deal with these complicated situations in a way where the comment isn't automatically put out and then everybody just piles on and assumes that that's the case.
Yeah, it's not. And I know why we are here. I know that part. But what I can't figure out is why they thought that this was the fix.
What do you mean?
I mean, making it to where if you confront someone about anything, that suddenly you're, a racist or an ageist or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. And I'm really kind of scared now, and because at the beginning of the show, Darren talked about the law firm. So there's a law firm out there called Alliance Defense Fund, and they're headquartered down in Scottsdale, Arizona, or Tempe, or somewhere in the Phoenix area. And there's a handful of lawyers, and that they say that they practice religious freedom, freedom of speech, parental rights, and a couple of other fucking things. But, they make sure and say that they've defended people regardless of religion, not just Christians, but, they've defended Muslims and Latter-day Saints and these people from other religions or other sects of said religion, Christianity. These are the guys that I think have an agenda. One, because of the preemptive strike. Two, because of the master cakes thing, or masterpiece cakes. And Darren and I were talking a couple of days ago before we even started thinking about recording the show. We're talking about how much it would cost to take a case from, your local courts through the district, through the Supreme Court, or the circuit court, and then up to the Supreme Court, and how much time and money would be involved in that. And I'm guessing that it's at least six figures.
Probably seven. I mean,
depending on how long it takes.
Yeah.
But this group, first of all, they're a law firm that is a nonprofit, so they can take donations. And if you look at some of the cases that they're pushing and fighting, there's always this Christianity thing that's lurking. They've had court Masterpiece Cakes, 303 Creative. Obviously they're saying we're not going to do gay cakes or gay websites. But there are cases where they're fighting school districts about transgender kids.
Critical race theory.
They're also doing critical race theory in a couple of school districts, which, I don't know a lot about critical race theory, but I've seen a couple of shows on it, and I've heard people complaining that essentially critical race theory doesn't help us to gel as a population, but it actually separates everyone out, because now the teachers have to treat black kids this way and white kids this way and Mexican kids that way and transgender kids this way. And so I don't think that being skeptical of critical race theory is an issue. But there have been teachers that were fired, kids that were suspended for, raising concerns about critical race theory. So I think that this law firm has an agenda to basically, well, a long time ago, and probably still now to some degree, but a long time ago, Christians used to go on missions in order to cure the world of savages and heathens and convert people to Christianity.
We got to liberate you from your hedonism.
Right. And I think now they're doing this except through the courts.
It's like a different way of like structuring that same kind of concept. And so like Brian's suggesting that, like he said, there's an agenda. There is a clear agenda. Like I said, I know Jack well enough to know that like he's not the devil, No, I mean, not trying to be ironic by, saying that or anything, but he's a nice guy. He believes something. And he believes it strongly. And when I listen to him talk about it from that perspective, I take my position is less critical. But when I see this instance where you have this law firm that's intervening, where the defendants are not they're not paying for the legal protection themselves, and they're networking a position to where you're creating preemptive spaces, the genuineness of his position becomes more suspect to me. Way more suspect. So as we're sort of like formulating this, like the rhetorical space in relation to like heavy duty identity politics is incredibly problematic in certain instances, in spite of the fact that we have to negotiate complex things that we do have to get past with regards to the way that different, classes before they became protected classes were treated and continue to be treated under certain circumstances. And on the other side of it, when we look at the way that this law firm is conducting itself, the the money that's being fed into it. I mean, I wish I could get a look at their donors, to see who it is that they're, whether or not they're getting money from the Koch brothers. I mean, it's one of those things where you like think about Citizen United and like lobbying. It's sort of like a very similar kind of thing. Um, at the end of the day, I don't trust. It becomes very difficult for me to trust the intentions of either side.
Well, I don't trust a law firm that's a fucking nonprofit. I'll tell you that. I mean, but it's, we talked about the protected classes from the perspective of being a business owner and being able to turn them away. But we only mentioned, a certain few minorities. Mm-hmm. But the truth is that if Jack mm-hmm. or Lori mm-hmm. came into my burger place and I knew they were a Christian mm-hmm. and I said, we don't serve your kind here. Mm-hmm. You need to go away. We don't serve Christians.
They're gonna sue your ass.
Right. I'm in trouble for that now too, because freedom of religion, the Bill of Rights guarantees that they can practice whatever they want. And they're a recognized religion.
In spite of the fact that you might be a hardcore atheist and you've seen what religion has done to people over the course of the years, and the amount of people that have been killed in the name of religion.
Right, and they sit down at the table and they pray, and then that scares the shit out of all of my employees and, the other people in the restaurant, because we don't have prayer here. This is an atheist restaurant. Get the fuck out. Can't do it. And that bothers me as much as anything else, is that everyone can sue everyone else because they got their fucking feelings hurt. I hate to break it to you. There's another cake shop down the fucking road. So wipe off your little gay tears and go to the other cake shop. There's another fucking web design place, probably in the same fucking building. Not that any gay people tried to go there to get a website, but if they did, they can find someone else. Let that cake business and the website business go under. Don't let this shit, and we shouldn't have even mentioned either of them by name, because all we did was advertise for free for them to the 6 of you. But there's a serious fucking problem in this country, and everyone wants to fight everybody else. And
over a cake, it's a cake.
It is a cake.
It's a website. It's a product. I mean, when our buddy Janae was in town, she gave me this book. And you picked it up. You kind of looked at this, but like I just looked at the first page, right? And like this paragraph, like it's kind of like one of those. When I read it, it just kind of reminds me of the way that like, if liberation means that you can purchase a commodity in any space that you want to purchase it from, I don't know that I want to live in that kind of a world. I mean, that seems more like a world where the concept of true liberation is being masked behind freedom. Is not the freedom to go buy something anywhere you want to fucking buy something.
They would have us believe that.
Guy Debord, he says at the beginning, so separation perfected. But for the present age, which prefers the sign, and this is he's actually quoting Feuerbach right here, one of Marx's favorite guys, who he kind of pounded on a bunch. But for the present age, which prefers the sign to the thing signified, the copy to the original, representation to reality, appearance to essence, truth is considered profane. The only illusion is sacred. Sacredness is, in fact, held to be enhanced in proportion as truth decreases and illusion increases, so that the highest degree of illusion comes to be seen as the highest degree of sacredness. So, like, when I think about, you're talking about a wedding, right? You're talking about declaring your love to a person, like publicly in front of all these different people. And I personally, because of the way that I see marriage to be just sort of like this legal space where it's really only about um, all these legal rhetorical.
Tax loopholes.
Yeah, like the concept of love, the sacredness of like the most important part. Like if we're going to survive as a species, it will only be through love. Like we have to like find a way to negotiate, and not love
The
based on
Beatles said something like that.
All you need is love. Dun 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 dun. So like it's not going to be about a cake. So like if at the end of the day we're arguing about a cake or a fucking web, like a website that, like, whatever it is that's like true, that's real, that's essential to the quality of the thing that you're trying to convey through the act, like, of love, is, I mean, this is all just bourgeois fucking bullshit at the end of the day. It makes me fucking want to puke in my mouth. And like, again, like, and of course we're going to repeat this over and over again. And I'm sure that if, 6 people listen to it, 5 of them are going to hate us for two and a half of them from one side, and then 2.5 of them from the other side. But it's important to understand that everybody's wrong here, because we're missing the point of what it is that's really at the bottom of these. What the fuck is a wedding? What the fuck is human relationships like?
But I think that's what the main attorney, that Wagoner lady, was saying, is that it's a wedding website, and that's why they have a problem with it. They don't have a problem with gay people. And I don't believe that.
Of course not.
I think if a couple of gay dudes walked into the cake shop and said, "Hey, we need a cake for a graduation," and the other one fucking smacked the one on the ass and started giggling, he wouldn't make that graduation cake either.
No, he'd want to ship them.
And the same goes for the website lady. And it doesn't have anything to do with being gay. It's a fucking graduation thing for someone else. So they're hiding behind freedom of speech to be bigots.
To advance that, because there's no, like, and here's like another way that to put that, right? I don't have any problem with you. I just think that because you're doing things that contradict the Bible, that you're going to burn in hell, right? I mean, because that's, I'm not judging you. I just think because the Bible says that being gay is a sin, then you will be spending the rest of your eternity with Satan, getting pitchforked.
So it does say something about not laying with a man, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't say anything about not laying with a woman, or a woman should not lay with a woman. So are lesbians okay? Is it just when actual penetration occurs that bothers them?
So that means that if the lesbians are fisting, then that's a problem then?
Well, I don't know. I didn't go that far. I was thinking like dildos and shit. But yeah, maybe fisting would be an issue. Maybe
I had to go for the hyperbolic.
Maybe this is a question for your sister. I know. I was just joking. So. I apologize.
It's okay.
No, so where Sotomayor asked the same question as where do we draw the line? Because she said something about, or no, it wasn't her that said the thing about the disabled people, but some, 2 disabled people were getting married and they wanted a website. And I don't think disabled people should be married because, they can't take care of their kids or, whatever her reasoning was.
Retarded kids too.
Yeah. So where is the line drawn? And I don't have an answer.
No.
I mean, her concern, at least from the way her questions were flowing, is that we were going to revert back to somewhere in like the 1920s.
Yeah. Both she and Bader Ginsburg were clearly like that. That was they just it was all about that. Like if we're anybody who isn't woke should be punished, which reflected the way that the Colorado law was implemented.
And that is my fear too. I don't want to move backwards. But I also don't want to serve somebody that I don't want to fucking serve. And the fact is that I'm a capitalist, so as long as they're not doing anything wrong, trashing my place or bothering my customers, I'm probably going to serve you. The word probably didn't sound real effective, I guess, or real believable. But
I think it was fine. I mean, you like you said, you put the qualifier in there. Like if you're coming in and you're fucking a kook and you're going caught disrupting, if you're a fucking pain in the ass, if you're not somebody who's gonna, or if you want me to fucking make a website about fucking using CGI for, like what we talked about last time, yeah, we're not going to make that website. I'm not going to make that website. Never. But as long as you're, I got to make my scratch, if what you ask me, and it's a plug and play position, I just put your photos in there, put your names in there, put your story in for this one, how you met there,
No, she kept making it sound like that lady was the one developing all of the fucking stories and shit. And I know she was not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if she's anything like that friend of ours that does graphic design, she might come up with some ideas and pitch them on it. But even he said, this is fucking stupid. And if I want to turn somebody away, I'm going to turn them away. I'm not going to say it's because you're gay.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's the problem. Like, maybe that's the agenda, is that these people want to be able to say, I'm not serving you because you're gay.
Because they kept saying, so is it going to get to the point where you're literally going to post on the websites for weddings? We're not going to serve same-sex couples,
Yeah, but I don't think, again, this is nothing but speculation. I'm just saying what I think, and that is, I don't think she would do it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're just, and the thing that scares me the most is what, like, again, back to the preemptive thing. Yeah, in reality, never are they gonna, but there is a bigger strategy that they are trying to draw, I mean, the ghostwriter analogy,
That was fucking stupid too, because if you're a ghostwriter, you have essentially signed a contract that says none of this is mine. It's now whoever is putting their name on it.
I just know how to, if I start a sentence with a preposition, I put a comma when we go to the subject side of it. I know how to fucking make a compound sentence. I know how to capitalize this. I know how to fucking not capitalize that. I know grammar, that's all. And there, and like, I don't want to, like, there are better writers than there are others, but still, again, you are an intermediary between the people that are asking for you to whether it's to write the book about their, you're ghostwriting an autobiography for me, or you're just an intermediary. You are not.
You're taking dictation, maybe.
Yeah, you're not the fucking one,
right?
And to say that I might be able to craft those words more artfully, that does not mean that you are. That what they kept saying, I'm speaking a message. Yeah, I'm speaking a message.
And they can't compel my speech.
Compelled speech.
So here's the thing that really kind of got to me too is, and this is the cake thing, not the website thing. So I haven't been to a ton of weddings in my life. I think that the entire fucking idea of marriage is bullshit. It's antiquated. It's, like Darren said, it's something for the state. If I love a girl, I'm going to love her. Probably until I fucking die. And I don't need a piece of paper to tell me you're going to love this chick until you die. But the reason I say that is because I've never seen a cake in the 5 weddings I've been to or whatever that had, I don't think, any writing at all on them, but maybe congratulations. Now you're telling me that writing congratulations is free speech? Or I've never even seen one with people's names on it. I mean, it's usually just a tiered cake with a couple of fucking plastic things on it.
Most of the time, it's just images. I'm sure that there are ones that say congratulations X and Y. I mean, but even still, like, I just, yeah. But and there's another point that you made earlier, like make the cake. But if you're not going to make the cake, I don't want somebody to make, like, if I have a special, if it's something that's a big deal, I would rather find somebody that was excited about what I was doing than rather than, because then how do I know, like, so like ultimately before it got to the Supreme Court and through both the Colorado Supreme Court and the Circuit Court before it got to the Supreme Court, he was told that he had to make those cakes, and he quit making wedding cakes, which allegedly was 40% of his business. So he took a big hit for it. But I'm losing my fucking train of thought here.
They made him do it.
Yeah, okay. So two things fucking happened. One was that they compelled him to do it, and the other one was they made him take this weird training, and his other co-workers were required to do the training as well, which sounded like very gulagish to me. Like I do not like the way
it's re-education, dude.
Yeah, re-education.
And the way that they want us to be.
Yeah, I do not like that any more than I don't like the idiot law firm that's doing the kind of shit that they're doing. But the other thing in relation to that is, how do you know he's not going to Fight Club your ass? You make me make a fucking cake for your wedding.
Yeah, put his own special batter in there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm gonna give you a little jizz. I'm gonna give you a little turd. I'm gonna give you a little,
right.
Whatever I can think of. Like, why would you even, I mean, you're and at some point, like, for a person to think, or a group of people or a couple to think that they're going to make a stand and they're going to change history, that's arrogant, right? And again, like, it's another moment where this should be about your love, this should not be about you taking a stand and be thinking that you're the catalyst for the future of human existence, woke human existence.
So again, I don't know shit about weddings, except what I've seen on movies and TV shows and shit like that. But apparently, and I don't know if this is true or not, every little girl in the world dreams about that wedding, that dream wedding, right?
Like Monica when she talked about putting the pillowcase on her head, because that was the.
Who the fuck is Monica?
It's a Friends episode. Like her and Rachel put the
okay. I thought you meant Lewinsky.
No, yeah.
I was like,
I still got the stain right there.
I didn't know he made her put a pillowcase on her head.
No, he didn't make her put.
I know. Okay, look, I was talking about Lewinsky.
Oh yeah. A pillowcase and a cigar.
So maybe gay dudes, or at least one of the two, are the same way. Like, for years and years and years, they've been dreaming of that dream wedding. And so maybe the cake is fucking important. I don't know, dude. Like I said, I don't give a shit. If it were my wedding, I'd have a fucking 6-foot sub and a cake from the grocery store.
Annie told me straight up. She said, if we're going to get married, we're going to do it the fucking justice of peace. We'll save the $10,000 and go on a fucking cruise, or, right. We don't need a day where we just
It's pointless. Again, it's antiquated. It's some fucking tradition rooted in paganism, and then the Christians stole it from paganism and made it their own and made it into some weird twisted version of what they took from the pagans.
And then the capitalists appropriated it, turned to every fucking market that you could integrate into.
Right. You got to have a photographer. You got to have a cake. You got to have decorations. Put cameras on every table so that your fucking guests can take pictures too.
Oh
That's really
God.
what I want to do is go to a fucking party and be forced to work. Fuck you.
Maybe that you could have another Fight Club moment there. You could just like go like
keep taking pictures of my junk.
Yeah.
Why is this a up close version of Brian's balls?
Now what were we talking about last time? Sexting. Yeah. That'd be like the camera sexting.
Yeah, and then I'd get in trouble for porn. Yeah, so I mean, we're coming up to an hour now. So to summarize, and again, I think the six of you should look into this a little deeper. Alliance Defense Fund is a bunch of fucking attorneys fighting for Christian rights and suing the shit out of everybody that doesn't agree with Christianity.
Which said it's not. I mean, it's like 12, 14 people or something. It's not a huge law firm.
Well, no, it is just a handful, but they're suing everybody.
Yeah.
In order to push some fucking agenda, and the agenda is really to make these laws so that they're law by precedent, and then it'll be that much easier to sue more people, and eventually we'll be fucking praying in school again. That was the main part of the summary that I wanted to give, but the other one is marriage is fucking stupid. Who gives a fuck about a cake, and who cares about a website? But as a business person, you maybe should have the right to turn people down. That's kind of what we talked about. If you agree, disagree, I don't really give a fuck, but let us know.
One other thing that I forgot to mention that was kind of interesting. Same-sex marriage was not legal in Colorado at that point in time.
You mean when the law was passed?
When in 2012, when the cake thing happened. So the reception was going to be here, but they were going to go to Massachusetts to get married. So I mean, it's interesting how, like again, like it's the focus is on the consumption product. You know, it's and I just whatever. I mean, make the cake, fuck it, or don't make the cake. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a messy, ugly thing, and I fucking hate the fact that 99% of the time, all we do is sit here and talk about fucking. As a society, not Brian and I. Brian and I are lunatics, so we don't talk about these things. But the wars, the culture wars, you know, where like we can't talk about the fact that these railroad workers, they need 7 fucking days of sick leave. You know, that's an important fucking thing. You not being able to get your wedding cake from this guy, it really pales in comparison to a lot of the other problems that we probably should be negotiating on the daily.
God, I wish I could remember what movie it was, but there was this line, and they were talking about same-sex marriage, and this guy said, well, fuck it, let them get married. If they want to be as miserable as everybody else, just no big deal.
Well, I'm glad. I mean, of course, I'm glad. I mean, I hope they formalize it on a federal level to where, like, and I understand that they're trying to get that taken care of as quick as they can because of the way that Roe v. Wade ended up happening. But
it'll be interesting to see what else happens. I'm sure we'll do another episode on something that kind of covers this topic again. But
of course, when we find out what the outcome of the 303 creative thing is, we'll at least pop off.
For the time being,
didn't you want to make an
apology
or something about something?
Oh yeah. On the porn episode, I was talking about the virtual child porn where they were using CGI and not real kids, animation type shit to do child porn. I made it sound like that case was very recent, and that case was actually argued back in 2002. The Supreme Court was in support of the people doing the virtual child porn.
Which
So
is fucking
the
horrific, but
state got
whatever.
shut down. I know Donald Rumsfeld was incredibly pissed about it. Lots of people were. I know I'm not extremely fucking happy about it, but again, I don't want to work backwards. Whether we're talking about gay cakes to black cakes to Mexican cakes, or whether we're talking about taking away somebody's freedom of speech. So I guess if you don't like it, change the channel. If you don't like this podcast, listen to another one.
But you should like this podcast. I like this podcast.
I think so. I think you should too. We're over an hour now, so we babbled for a really fucking long time. Let us know what you think. Shortbusdebateclub at yahoo.com.
720-334 roll.
7655 for those of you that don't know roll.
Roll, bitches.
Talk to you later.
Later.
Thanks.